What's up, everybody? Thanks for jumping on to Steelers To Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. I'm Noah Strackbein. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and check out the All Steelers Talk Audible collection on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcasts. Yesterday, training camp started. Players arrived. It was awesome. It was great to be at Latrobe for the first time for me, for the first time for pretty much everybody on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster. Cam Hayward said there was about 20 guys that have been there before, and honestly, that might be an exaggeration. There might be less than that. And I was one of the newbies. I didn't know what to expect. I never had the privilege of being there as a child, so I was pretty hyped. Nobody showed up in a big fire truck, and AB didn't come down in a helicopter, but it was still memorable. And I think what stood out most was the words of players about another player. Time and time again, Najee Harris's name was brought into the conversation no matter which side of the football we were talking about. If we were talking to Cam Hayward, Najee Harris was being mentioned. If we were talking to TJ Watt, Najee Harris was being mentioned. Chase Claypool, Najee Harris. Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris. Mike Tomlin, Najee Harris. And everybody wasn't talking about his talent. Everybody knows how good Najee is. If your expectations for him this season are to lead the NFL in rushing, you have good expectations, rightful expectations, expectations that chances are could be met easily. What they were talking about was replacing Ben Roethlisberger and how the Steelers were going to find leadership in a team that has an offense that has pretty much all new guys. And if you aren't new, you're relatively young, especially in the NFL. Guys like Pat Freiermuth, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Kevin Dotson are all expected to just be these leaders within the locker room. Most of them haven't been around a full contract. All of them haven't been around a full contract. But Najee Harris is the guy that they're pinpointing, that they are saying, this is the guy that's going to bring the leadership that Big Ben had for the last 17 years, and he's going to bring it to the offense in 2022. Huge. Truthfully, I don't see an issue with it. I think that Najee Harris contains all the leadership ability that you want in a player. I think that was represented last year. I think that he had a year to learn from Ben Roethlisberger, and on top of that, had a year to solidify himself as a true dominant player within the NFL. So it's been 365 days, 20 games, plus a playoff game, a year working with Mike Tomlin, Cam Hayward, and Big Ben, getting to understand his teammates, developing relationships. That's all he needs. I truly believe Najee Harris is going to be a leader this year. And I don't think the Steelers are going to miss a beat in that aspect of their team. I think that replacing Ben Roethlisberger's leadership is super difficult. It's one of the most difficult things you'll do, but it's not impossible. Replacing a Hall of Fame quarterback on the field with everything tangible and intangible that he brings is pretty impossible. Replacing one aspect of him, doable, especially if you have a guy who's ready to be a star on and off the field. That's Najee Harris. Last year, Kendrick Green brought up that Najee was a dude who would come up to you if you were having a bad series and say, hey, man, keep your head up, and motivate you. Now he's comfortable in an offense, comfortable with the team, comfortable with the players around him. That's just going to exemplify. That's going to really show in 2022 when he needs it to show. And on top of that, something else stood out. So we were talking to Najee, and everybody's talking about his leadership and everything, that this and that, whatever. And somebody asked if he has a roommate. And he said, no, my roommate got cut, referring to Trey Edmonds, who was released literally 24 hours before training camp. And then he said he doesn't have a roommate now, but he's pushing for one, or was pushing for one. And he wanted that roommate to be a rookie. Why? Because he wants to show that rookie the way of the land. He wants that rookie to have the same success that he has. That's a leader. That's a really good leader. That's somebody who's not afraid of competition. You see guys all the time. I mean, Ben did the same thing. Ben looked at guys. Mason Rudolph's a perfect example. And I get that Mason did his part in the Ben versus Mason beef. But Ben looked at Mason Rudolph and said, I don't want to teach this guy. I don't feel good that you drafted my replacement. Najee's a guy, and this is no dig on Ben or his leadership. I think Ben is one of the best leaders the Steelers have ever had. Najee's a guy who knows he's the best and wants other people to succeed around him because he understands that even if they're second best, they're not going to reach him. That's huge. That is huge. Will the Pittsburgh Steelers struggle this season? Yeah, probably. At least from time to time. Hopefully no more than they did last season, but I wouldn't expect any less. Not for starters. If the Steelers finished 9-7, you feel pretty all right. Or 9-8, I guess. You feel pretty all right. If they make the playoff, that's a win. Najee's leadership is going to be huge in 2022. It's going to be the difference between a 6-11 team and a 9-8 team. It really is, because he's going to be the guy that's able to keep this group together when you're starting to fall apart. When the passing game isn't doing anything and he's running as hard as humanly possible, and a lot of guys would just get upset. Like, dude, could we do something else on offense? Because I'm taking a beating over here and you guys suck. What he's going to do instead, because this is what he's shown for the last year, is that he's going to go to his guys and say, look, we're going to be fine. Just keep grinding. And I will put my head down because this is the big part. Mike Tomlin, Chase Claypool, everybody else says Najee Harris is a vocal leader. And they're dead on. Najee Harris is clearly a vocal leader. The only person who doesn't believe he's a vocal leader is himself. What he said is he's a lead by actions type of guy, which is awesome. You want to know why? Because Najee is a vocal leader. He knows exactly what to say to somebody when they need something said to them. But in his head, he's saying to himself, I need to put my head down. I need to grind. And I need to show these guys that it's possible so that they believe that it's possible. Put the weight on my shoulders. Put the team on my back. I'll get it done. That's huge, because that's a guy that's going to work his butt off to show everybody around him that they're going to be just fine, but at the same time, be able to say stuff to these guys to motivate them in the right direction. That's huge. Look, replacing Ben Roethlisberger, hard, super difficult. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to see gap after gap after gap of what Big Ben brought to this team. Najee is a spark that the Steelers needed. And it's just more solidified that the Steelers made the right decision last year's draft to get Najee Harris. Because without Ben, this team would be super lost right now, looking for an answer, relying on guys like Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool to step up and be a leader. Now they have somebody like Najee Harris, who's a true born leader, ready to take the reins of that. You can't, there's nothing to be said there. You can't replace that. You need that on a football team. Easy, especially a Mike Tomlin driven football team. Mike Tomlin's a player's coach here and there. And I get it. I get it. That's not always a great thing. But Mike Tomlin could make many, many men run through a brick wall. The difference is that Mike Tomlin can't be the only one talking. Najee Harris is a guy that's going to take over the rest of that talk. Huge for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very excited to see what Najee Harris does in 2022, but also very excited to see how he takes control of this team at training camp, during the preseason, and even early portions of the regular season. And then especially during the myths, the mud, the really tiring, heartbreaking parts of 2022 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Najee's a dude that you should be very excited about this season. I was very excited to hear from him. He's not a big fan of the dorms at St. Vincent, but that's okay. We'll get through that. Apparently, Alabama has great dorms. Who would have thought that Alabama supplies the best for their football team? Najee's a dude that's going to shine here at camp in the regular season, and his leadership is very, very much needed. Replacing Ben Roethlisberger is now on Najee Harris's shoulders, and he's the man for the job. Trust me, trust him, trust Mike Tomlin, trust Cam Hayward, trust everybody who said anything about Najee's leadership. Huge, huge, huge.